My name is Jim Sternhell. The alarmists love to go on about the 97% consensus that appeal to authority, but to me it appears to be just a semantic manipulation. The most comprehensive of those consensus things, of course, was the Cook et al. From 2013 with 11,944 abstracts reviewed. Just 64, according to them, but reviewed to 41, came to a quantified conclusion that humans were the dominant cause of global warming / climate change. With such a tiny number, has anyone looked at the actual number of lead authors and who peer reviews those tiny numbers that give that so-called consensus conclusion that the alarmists love to bang on about all the time, and that to them is the closing argument, oh, the science is settled?
The only thing I can tell you is that that 97% was so quickly discredited and at Queensland and John Cook and all of that nobody bothered to go near it. The one that preceded it that actually had the initial impact was Naomi Oreskes' 95%. And what she did was, and students understand this, she did a Google search. And she just put in global warming and, of course, got 985 papers that all agreed that global warming was a problem. And then when you added one word to her Google search and the numbers changed completely. But Oreskes is an advisor to Obama's White House, and she has a huge amount of influence. But the consensus argument is another example of what Tony was talking about earlier. Consensus is a political term. It has nothing to do with science, but the public don't really understand that. They're overwhelmed by, and you notice Obama's been using it 97%, but then he talks about carbon, which is a solid, when he really means CO2, which is a gas. So what does he know?
Michael Crichton said the word consensus is the last refuge of scoundrels. It's a way to avoid debate. And about the 97% thing in Obama made a tweet a couple of years ago. It said 97% of the world scientists believe that global warming is real, man-made, and dangerous. Complete nonsense. The American Meteorological Society did a survey of their professional members in 2013. Only 52% would even say that global warming was primarily man-made. Among professional forecasters, it was something like 38%. And of course, they never ask in these surveys any questions about is it dangerous, because they would probably get laughed out of the room if they asked anything that ridiculous. So that these numbers are utter nonsense. And no group in the American Meteorological Society, even the people who get paid to push global warming, was as high as 97%. So the number is a complete fake.
And Jim, that 97%, of course, when you look at the actual figures as you've done, and that 41, I think it was, or 44.
I think it's 63, and when there was some appeals to some of the people who'd been attributed to saying that, and it's because of, no, that's wrong. It was downgraded to 41, just 41 out of 11,944.
And that represents 0.3%, which is, instead of a 97% consensus, we've got a 0.3% smattering. But there's an even more telling figure. Not one of those 0.3% has ever provided any empirical evidence that carbon dioxide from human activity affects the global climate. Not one. That's the end of their story.
Yeah, thank you.
We have a special question from our media advisor.